Hello everyone, thank you for joining me on another episode of Supreme Command 2 Unit Creation. Now in this episode, I'm going to be doing a lot of experimental things, so to speak. They're things that I have never tried before, and it's either going to work perfectly as I intend, or this video won't ever be uploaded. I have not uploaded, or done anything really, for the past few days because I've been spending all that time doing research. I have been trying to figure out specifically how to get treads on a unit. Because the tool that I use for importing, exporting models, I don't know how the treads work, and it doesn't seem to work with treads. I can't really describe it. I think it's just that the tool doing it doesn't have support for it, because it's not using the right version of the game. It's still using from Supreme Commander 1. Which, by the way, you might recognize this muzzle right here. This is from the Mavor Experimental UEF Artillery. It's also a game ender unit, because it's very, very powerful. I plan to do something very similar here. There's going to be a lot of trickery with this unit. I'm going to be doing two different forms of trickery to make it look like something else. What I'm going to do is create one unit that only is the top, as seen here, and the other unit is going to be the bottom, which is just going to be treads. Because since my tool doesn't work with treads, I'm going to create a clever workaround. And that will be by using two different units. They're going to be docked on top of each other so they move together. And only the top part will have the functionality. The bottom is a separate unit, but it only works as treads. I've done this before, so I will be using it as reference. Now to start off, I added this, because this is for the pod staging platform, which also needs this category right here. Now we need this transport part here. So to give my entire thought process on what I'm expecting to do, I'm going to create two units. One will be the actual unit that does everything that I want. It's going to be a pod. And the other unit is going to be the unit with treads that I'm taking from. It's going to be the same model, everything. It's not going to be edited. I'm just going to remove parts of the model by hiding it as if it was a research upgrade. So the first part of my trickery is using docking to make two units appear as one. And the second part of my trickery is hiding parts of the mesh from a model that I don't edit, so that all I'm left with is the treads. Okay, so after a little bit of research, I figured it out. And as you can see, there's no top to this unit. Now, to give a rundown of what I am doing. I build this rockhead. Now watch these units closely. If I go to research, and then get this upgrade here, watch the top of the tank. I don't know where it'll be here, but I know it'll be on top of the tank there. See that? That part of the mesh wasn't there before. Previously it was disabled. It wasn't rendering. What I have done here for my unit is the exact same thing, but for the top. So now the top of my unit never renders. So now all I have is the treads, because that's all I want. Now of course it's a little bit buggy because you can see through it. That's never meant to happen. But I'm going to fix that by using always the level of detail 0 model. Now, like I said, I had to use some pretty hacky workarounds to get this unit to work. But it's still the same, all the trickery is still there. There's just an extra step. Now you have to build it. Because like I said, it's an attachment, technically. But I will show, you have to also use the attack to move, but the treads, they are animated, and the turret fires. Split it. No, it won't split because I did something wrong. After a very large quantity of number tweaking and testing, I have finally found how to make the cluster artillery work. What I was previously doing was I would have one projectile that would shoot off and after 5 seconds split into multiple projectiles. That wouldn't work, however, because no matter what I did when setting its velocity, it would always just fall flat. Always. It wouldn't move at the same rate, it would just suddenly lose all of its speed. Even though to my knowledge I was setting it to not do that and keep the velocity. So I have decided I would do it a different way, and it's finally working. So what I'm doing now, I'm launching 10 projectiles at the very same time by duplicating the muzzle bone. This has taught me a few things that may or may not help me in the future. One of the most important is the velocity of a projectile is equal to its speed times 10, or at least when it's halfway through its flight, as in it's halfway to its intended target. What I'm doing now is when this projectile is fired, the 10 of them is a minimum of 5 seconds delay, and then it's going to run a loop that while the projectile is still alive, it's going to detect when it just passes the halfway point of where the projectile is to its destination. And then when it's reached the halfway point, it's going to split to the artillery. And how it does that is very simply, it just gives a random velocity to the projectile. Since there are 10 projectiles all fired at once and all in the same location, giving them each individual random velocities will make it appear to cluster. Because they're all originating from the same point, but then they randomly get velocity, so they'll appear to spread, when in reality it was just 10 projectiles there the entire time. Also, when it splits, I give it additional polytrail effects. And that's really it. There is one thing to me using the distance like I am, where it splits at halfway. Depending on how far or close it is, will affect the spread. But for now, you can just see here, it all appears to be one. And then, there they go. They split apart. And then they land, do lots of damage. They are in a cluster. The cluster spread isn't huge, but it's not really meant to be either. I'll show when I move further away the spread will increase. So that's a good thing about it being mobile, is you can control how much the spread is. And you see it's just laying waste to the space though. You also have to utilize the artillery well. Like right now it's targeting this, which is at the bottom, so anything that goes down here, which happens a lot, will do nothing. So you want to obviously put it in the center of the base. And also, once that's done firing there, this next shot should be aimed at that, I can show. It also goes right through shields. Oh, shields ran out. Oh well. But it would go right through shields if I had actual shields I can show it on, but unfortunately all of theirs are destroyed already. Now if I move this unit here, you should see the cluster will, begin to grow. As you can see, the spread's all of this area, and while down here it's a little bit more essential, well, it got further away, but it was a little bit more centralized earlier. Now you can see the spread is much higher than when it was close. Now it's going in this area versus down here where it's going in a tighter area. That's their only unit left, so I can't show my artillery now. Oops. The one downside also is I can't tell this artillery to stop firing. There's no way to make it stop. If they begin to build again, you'll see I have it set to hold fire, but this turret here is different than this unit, so it's not going to listen. Yeah, you can see even though it's hold fire, it still fires. I am thinking about toying with the cluster. I do want it to grow a little bit more and be further apart, but it's hard to make it bigger when it also changes based on distance, so I might have to include a formula that decreases the spread the further one is out. So I'm gonna have to look into that, but either way, this unit is working just about perfectly as I would want it to. So I'm going to do a little bit of number tweaking, but since the unit is done, that's all I've got. Oh, one also thing you might have noticed me do, you have to use the attack command to move the unit. The move command won't work. That's because it's a factory. Oh, they built again. That is the spread that I want. And if I go, let me go here. Alright, it's about the same. So it does grow, but it's not horribly high growth. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that spread. Like I said, I'll have to do some tweaking. I'm not entirely sold on it yet. But that is how it should be. So, thank you all so much for joining me on this unit creation video. This unit has taken me a long time to figure out, but I have learned a great amount from it. One huge thing that I've learned is how to get a weapon on top of tread units. Because previously I didn't know how to do that, and now I do. I can't really make UEF land units without the treads, because that's what all of them use, except for the assault bot. So I'm glad I figured that out. That was a little bit of a hassle, but in the end it's working, and there's no real downside to it, so I'm perfectly happy. Anyways, that's all I got. Thank you all so much for joining me on this unit creation video. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you on my next video, so if I will, see you there. I'll be waiting.